recording. Everyone.
Got it.
All right, take it away.
All right.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the invitation to present this report out to you guys. This was our glass rails by Walters and Wolf Kaizen. The participants were Joseph Mayer, James Ancouli, Dave Fried, John Daffron, Julio Jimenez, Michael Pierce, Mario Quell, Miranda Ibarra, and Vincent D'Antonio. We had the participation from 3 of our companies, which is Fremont, Las Vegas, and Laverne. We can go to the next slide. Just
Good afternoon. Oh, you want to go back one? Thanks, Joseph. Good afternoon, guys. So this was our Kaizen scope sheet, and without going one by one through each item, I'll just give you a brief explanation of why we started our Kaizen. In SBD and in Walters and Wolf Glass up here in Northern California, anything longer than 50 linear foot of horizontal glass rail, our standard was to sub out to a company called Florian. And while that worked for quite a number of years, we noticed that we would get our rail scope taken out of our scope based purely on the fact that Florian was well overpriced. So we basically were never winning any glass handrail scope, and we had to figure out a new way to go about doing it. So we formed this Kaizen, and we included Las Vegas and people from Laverne. And we realized that all 3 branches did it separately. Vegas was completely performing the work themselves. Laverne was doing something in between that, and we were not doing it at all. So we thought this was a great time to get everyone together and form this Kaizen. Number 4, we were leaving good money on the table. We were losing that scope to other subs almost every time. And one of our main goals was just to get more profitability and be able to perform this work ourselves and make sure that we were all on the same page.
thank you, Vince. Now we're going to hear from Michael in the future state of.
All right, thank you. So our primary standard for moving forward will be the full package buyout. And that's what Laverne's been doing for a number of years now, and what our Swiss is based upon. The vendors to provide shop drawings and engineering, the vendors to provide all their negotiated materials. We may have them include alternates for glass and or embeds. And Walters and Wolf is the one who will install the system. So currently our primary vendor is Trex, which is previously called SC Railing Company. I've had a good working relationship with them over the past few jobs. However, other possible vendors could include Stella, Syntac, or CRL, although we would want to limit them to very small and straightforward scopes. Next slide, please.
Yeah, I'm clicking. Oh, I got to escape here, sir.
You can just leave it like that, Joseph. That's
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. Can you guys see this?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Yeah, pretty good. So, as discussed earlier, at the beginning of Kaizen, we saw that each office was buying the guardrails very differently. So we wanted to do price comparison to better compare these methods. So on here we have, so type 1 was what Fremont was doing, which is the full buyout subcontractor. And then type 2 is what Laverne's been doing, which is the 50% buyout. So, so Laverne's buying out all the materials and the shop drawings and engineering, but we're installing it. And then the type 3 down there is what Vegas has been doing, which is they're doing everything themselves. And so, in looking at this, I mean, the Florian price up top I mean, they're at like 1.3 million for this Fremont job that we used as a benchmark for doing this.
And just so you guys know, this was the ACLS job that's an active job we're doing right now, I believe, right? Or was this the one, Roberto, that we already did?
No, this was one that
I think it was ACLS. I think it was
Yeah,
the rail.
that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. So you can see that, you know, before our markup, this is how much it's going to cost us. And this is with our sell price. And this is, you know, just so you guys can see, right? Huge differences in lineal footage cost. So this is just a complete sub out. And this is if we purchase a package buyout, but we install it. And this was if we just do everything ourselves, including shop drawings, calcs, going to the CRL website, picking every part number out. So for a minimal premium, we can go to somebody who does just glass rails every day. Anything else, Michael, on this one?
No, that's good.
Okay. Anybody? Yeah. Anybody like this is what we really wanted to focus on, and the RFQ. So if anybody has kind of any questions about, did you consider this? Did you consider that? Or what kind of complexity of the job is it? Like, we want to make sure that you guys can understand, you know, when you get to a certain type of glass rail job, like out of these 3 different approaches, like what would be the best for your job? And a lot of that always consists of how much total volume of work is there, and then how complex is the job, and then most importantly, do we have the manpower to perform it? So something that just wanted to let you guys know, the reason why we ever did this type 1 was the days where we didn't have enough manpower to perform the work, and we were lucky enough to still be able to take another subs, mark it up, and still get it. Those days aren't here right now. So that this is what kind of spurred like us doing this Kaizen. So please feel free to ask questions if you have any as we go through this.
We'll have a little bit of time at the end to be able to do that also. I wanted Joseph to touch on that RFQ that we develop as we for anybody who's going to be requesting quotes either from Trex, which is our preferred vendor right now, or this could be also used by anybody to request a quote as far as glass rails is concerned from FHC or CRL. So
yeah, so thank you, Roberto. I'll hop right into this. So following our normal, you know, our standard format for RFQs, we try to take all the pertinent information that, you know, would be important to pass on to a glass rail buyout company or a subcontractor. And, you know, we broke it out based off of everything that we would normally do when it comes to, you know, plans and specs, date of shop drawings, any special design criteria. And then, you know, as we come down, it's like, is this exterior or interior rail that has a big impact on wind loads and the certain type of glass makeups that you can use. And then if you happen to do any sort of takeoffs yourself, you could put that in here to help make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then again, when it comes down to glass types, SGP is our standard interlayer. When it comes to laminated glass, all glass rail glass needs to be laminated. So we try to put these little comments in here, like company standard. You know, if you have a bent glass rail, is it segmented or curved? And then any sort of special, like, you know, polished edges, or do you need the sharp corners softened? Things of that nature. But we try to think about everything, that all the gotchas when it comes down to doing a glass rail system, you know, how the glass gets installed into the shoe. I think we even have in here things such as you know, top caps and end caps? Are you going to include a taper lock in your number or glass nuts? Glass nuts is a special nut that they put in the shoe that as you torque it down, it expands and it locks the glass into the base shoe. And that's a standard that Trex can provide, or they do provide. So this is now in the Excel templates for sales. So if you do have a glass rail job and you're going to get a quote from Trex, sorry, you'd want to fill this out. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Vince or Roberto or anybody in this Kaizen, and we can help you guys with what should be chosen for this.
I wanted to point out one thing, Joseph, that your pre-construction group is the one that's going to be helping us modify or fine-tune this particular RFQ. As you start using it, and we're hoping that we're able to price, now that we have the tools, at least the knowledge of how to price it, we are hoping to gain a lot more knowledge on installation in the other two branches where we are not doing our own installation. But as you use this tool, or if you get a chance to look at the RFQ, if you can think of anything that will make it better or anything that should change, something to add, subtract from the form, please reach out to us. In our PDCAs, we're going to be looking at several things that to make this process a better process for everybody involved, and also, of course, for the company. So now Michael is going to talk about the experience of working with Trex so far, because they are the ones who've been in Laverne. They've been using them for a while now in several jobs, and the experience has been positive. So Michael's going to tell us about that.
But before we hop into this slide, we did have a question. What is the alternative to glass nuts when buying from Trex? So just to explain to you guys, try to find a detail here. I don't see one here, but the base shoe that the glass goes into, if you kind of see where I'm circling here, it's about a 4-inch tall, thick aluminum U-shaped extrusion. So when the glass goes in it, here's another good profile of it here. So setting block goes in there, then we put the glass in there. So you only really have like 2 to 3 options, and one of those options is no longer something that we can use, and I'll explain in a second. So C.R. Lawrence has a system called a taper lock, and it's a series of plastic shims, and there's various thicknesses. So you put your glass in, and then you wedge shims in between the glass and the base shoe, and as you torque them down, they wedge the glass to the shoe. Trex has a very nice state-of-the-art system. I do believe every office right now between Laverne, Vegas, and Northern California all has a sample mock-up for a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of glass with the glass nut system that they have. Theirs is very similar to C.R. Lawrence. It's just more of a modernized, improved design. I'm not going to try to explain it. You really have to see how it works. But it's a plastic nut, and as you torque it, it expands. And then the third option, which I'm not going to get too deep into, is a chemical that expands and locks it in. But however, it's got a cementitious material in it, and it counteracts with the PVB or the inner layer that's a laminated glass. So we cannot use that anymore. It goes by the name of Pour Rock and Rockite. So if you ever see that, it's basically a liquid, a 2-part compound that would harden, but it's not compatible with the inner layers of laminated glass. And because all glass rails have to be laminated, it's just not a route that we can go down anymore. So you either need to use the taper lock from C.R. Lawrence or the nut system. What's it called? The glass. It's called a glass nut, I believe. We'll follow up, and we'll find out where those samples are to where you guys can all see them. And then they actually have a product data sheet that our handy assistant Pedro Perez just sent. So this is the product. So that's their shoe. This is the system. So basically, as you torque this nut, it causes the nut to go away from the inside wall of the shoe and it clamps to the glass. There's a special tool that comes with it. You can kind of see in here, again, you tighten it, it locks the glass. It does exactly what the Sierra Lawrence does, except this is superior to Sierra Lawrence. You'd have to kind of see the two hand in hand to understand why, but this is another reason why we wanted to go with Trex. Now, the other thing that you guys need to understand is you need to use a lot of them. 3 inches from each end and 8 inches on center. So the labor can add up because you are using, 4 or 5 of these on every piece of glass. So that's just something to consider. Now, when you go to Trex for a quote, they will do their quantity and they will include the right amount based off of how much lineal footage you have. So, but that being said, I'll go back to the presentation. Okay, Michael, take it away.
All right, thanks, Joseph. And yeah, here's the 12-inch sample, the Trex assembly. So I have it. So if anybody wants to see it, I've got it up here. So for this slide, so these are some pictures from our last completed UCI job. Besides the typical straight runs and corners, this job also had stairs and grab rails. Once the shop drawings are approved, Trex can either come out to the field to dimension themselves, which is currently about an $8,000 charge, or they'll provide us with a field dimension package, which is what we did on this job. So in the bottom right corner, like that's one of the pages from that package. So our field superintendent provided the requested dimensions, and then they asked for pictures on their specific locations. So then Trex can complete their fabrication of the system. And the result was minimal parts fabricated incorrectly. So, overall, the installation went really smoothly.
Thank you, Michael. Well, as you can see, we saw the need of for us to have the capabilities to offer our customers glass rails, and that's what we set up to do in this Kaizen. I'm really happy and thankful that I was able to work with the group that we had from the 3 different branches. We have not answered all the questions yet. During our PDCAs, we are going to be tackling some other Swisses that were pending on the other ways of doing or pricing glass rail. But we will welcome any comments and anything that we can do to better this process. Hopefully from here on, not only Fremont, but our other branches we're going to be in line using the same system, and hopefully our guys in the field will be able to gain the knowledge also to be able to install this type of scope. Now, if anybody has any questions, we'll try to come up with some answers.
Do we still use Florian?
Yes, we do.
So, yeah.
Reach out
Roberta,
to
do you want to
Florian.
comment on when you think it's great to get Florian involved?
I'm sorry, what was that, Joseph?
So Florian has a niche. They're probably the highest quality stainless steel fabricator that we work with in regards to if you have to have things fully welded and refinished in the field. And you have to be careful with glass rails because every now and then, like on Stanford projects, in the specs for glass rails, they may actually call out that the top cap and the grab rails need to be seamless. So those things can impact the cost of your job. So when you have to do scope like that, you will need to have a miscellaneous metals subcontractor on your job. We've started the dialogue with Precast to see if they could somehow perform that work for us, but the top cap, sometimes it'll span 100 feet and it'll go up and down and around stairs. So if the spec calls out for a seamless installation, you need to be able to have somebody who can weld steel and then grind it and basically apply the finish to make it look brushed. So sometimes you may use a company such as Florian or B Metals. And if somehow we get busy again to where we don't have enough manpower, we definitely would consider subbing work to Florian again. They have been really, really good to us. They just also command a very steep price. So this is a big reason why we're trying to bring it back in-house, is because we're losing jobs that need to be competitively bid.
I want to point out one thing to everybody, that we are not mandating that we are going with Trex from here on and this is the way it should be. And that's why it was good that we had the 3 different branches, the team members from different branches presented the way that they're approaching this scope right now. And our consensus was that this is the best way to go about it, to make it profitable and to be able to offer something right now. Right now, we don't have the expertise or the experience in the field or in the office to be able to manage or install this scope 100%. The only ones that are doing 100% Walters and Wolf installation, design, and engineering, it's Vegas right now. But right now, Florian still are, at least in Northern California, they're still our preferred vendor. Very expensive, but eventually our hope is that we're going to find a very good welder that we can develop into welding stainless steel and finish work that we can use. And eventually we can have a team, not just in the office, but in the field, that can 100% perform all these tasks. So this is not a mandate. This is the best thing that we came up with right now.
And the other thing too, one of the big reasons why we wanted to jump into this, and obviously some of our legacy estimators are no longer here, but for a long time, people had this idea that you can do a straight run of glass rail for 400 or 500 lineal feet. And, anything up and down stairs was about $600 or $700. But year over year, we've seen inflation and supply chain issues and the cost of aluminum going up. So we never really had taken the time to kind of pull this data together to figure out, okay, what is this really costing us? If you had to budget a job, and keep in mind, we did this Kaizen about 8 months ago is when we pulled this data together. So it may have gone up, it may have gone down, but whatever sort of lineal foot number you use for glass rails, like these are the critical things that you have to consider when you're putting a budget together. And if you're gonna do it yourself, we're working on putting a green sheet together. And the nice thing about going with Trex is Trex will quote all the materials, all the shop drawings, all the calcs, and the field layout. And then all we need to do is add in, our markup and our field labor. So, again, we didn't go with the cheapest route, but we went with a route that we wouldn't have to be the experts at glass rails, and we could rely on Trex, who only does glass rails, and they always are keen to the codes. And they do have a really nice modeling system for rail systems. So that's why we went down this road. So we're running out of time, but I definitely want to get some questions in. I know you guys didn't seem to have any, but is there anything else anybody wants to know about glass rails and pricing?
I just had a question moving forward. You answered one of them. You guys are working on a green sheet. So that was great.
Yes.
My next question was, are you guys going to do analysis in the field on like how long it does take to actually install it? So that we like know like what hours we should be including in our estimates? Is that gonna be built into a green sheet?
So Vince, can you comment on like how could the monitor tie into these scopes? Because we didn't really talk about the monitor and how we could get real-time data. So
For jobs in Laverne and in Las Vegas, where we've been doing the glass guardrail scope ourselves, we have monitored data on how long it has taken to do those railings. And we generally look at it as an all-in labor number per light, right? So sometimes we'll have it broken down where it's like, here's the shoe, here's this, but we have some good analysis of, as a complete system, let's say you had a run of guardrail and it's got 10 lights in there, you know, what that averaged out to be per light to do the shoe, to do the glass, to do the top cap. It can be good comparison numbers of what your overall labor should be in your green sheets. And we can pull that together and go over that at another time.
yeah, so that we can put that into our subsequent phase work, because it's important to know the field labor for sure.
And we're definitely gonna be reaching out for some of this information as we work in our master green sheet, and the information coming back from the field as to what the labor should be, because that's the biggest factor. So if is there any other questions? We're coming up to our time here.
I just had one more comment. The little glass buttons or whatever, that looks pretty interesting, but being spaced 8 inches on center seems like a lot. And so I was just thinking there's another installation method, which is a Hilti product, and the HY270 compatible with both types of inner layers. And that is usually...
I have a full management report out on that one. And just in a nutshell, they do brag that it is quicker. So it's a liquid compound, and you spray it in, it looks like a sugar cookie. The issue that we found with that is any wind that hits that glass rail while the silicone it's a compound is curing will cause that to compress, and you can walk up to the glass rail and you could literally wobble the glass rail. So while it is compatible, we weren't able to mimic a situation when we did a mock-up. We brought in Hilti. We did not feel good about the quality of the set. So we're going to steer away from that right now. And the other thing is, when you factor in the cost, they were looking for like $30 to $40 per like disc of chemicals. So we did the math, and it really, they were looking to get a little too much money, and we didn't feel good that you'd get the correct set. There was too much leeway for defective install, and we kind of moved away from it. But I did send out like a management report out on it. I'll dig that up and I'll send that to you. It's got a video, and it shows exactly you know, kind of how we installed it and the problems that we ran into.
Yeah, that'd be great, because I mostly used it for interior applications, so there was really, but yeah, that'd be great to look at.
Yeah, I'll get that over to you guys. It definitely has, it can be done right, but we just ran into issues in our mock-up. So
We are using it. We just used it in a LinkedIn project just a couple of months ago. We used that Hilti. It's very expensive. I think it's more in the $75 a tube range.
yes,
I recently just bought 2 cases, but we are still going to use it, whatever we have to use it. But what we're going with is either the CRL system or the nuts that Trex is selling now.
just so you guys know too, like when you have to PM work like this, like our engineering team is not set up for takeoffs for all these systems. So when we do go to Trex, they have an engineering department that knows every single nut and bolt that they need. They label everything, And so there's a little bit of an outsourcing kind of function here that they kind of have the comparative advantage on right now. Our end goal is going to be, we could self-perform it and we have everything standardized and we're not subbing it out or buying it out. But just right now, the Trex definitely is the best value, I would say.
Well, thank you very much, Joseph, Vince, and Michael, and thank you, Vince Polimis, for the opportunity, and to all your group here. That concludes our presentation.
And now
Yes.
no one jump off because like I said, we've got a two-parter today. So John is now taking over the screen and we're going to move right into our presentation for the interior STC dual glaze system. John, welcome and take it away.
Johnny, do it. Yeah, we got Omero. Johnny, you're muted. Looks like we have everybody. Steven's here.
Yeah, yes, go ahead. Yeah, I was muted.
Okay.
I'm here.
Sweet.
Yeah, go ahead. I think Joseph, you actually started off for us, don't you?
Yes. Welcome everyone. We have Omero Acosta from the field in SPD, John Oates in SPD Big Side, Rafael Ureno, Roberto Castaneda, Stephen Gabbard with interiors, Ron Bond with retirement, and myself, and Vince D'Antonio. So interior STC dual glaze system. So STC is a sound control measured in decibels. So we wanted to standardize a system that we could provide to our customers that would achieve these STC ratings and prevent us from having to buy it out because the vendors on the market are less than stellar and we were having a lot of issues. So this is what our presentation is going to be on.
Yeah, and I guess it's kind of Joseph already actually caught on some of the issues we had, but we started this Kaizen. Demand of the STC rated system had increased. We were getting definitely a lot more demand for it on jobs, TI jobs. The only STC vendor we really had, yeah, to say the least, it was poor customer service. We missed opportunities due to lack of systems. There was lack of STC testing and data, and then there was no really cost value. Then the scope sheets, I'm not going to go over all of them, but just to name a few of the more important ones. Lack of STC rated framing systems. There was poor lead times from the current vendors. And I guess it came down to is we really just didn't have an option for a customer, and we were losing opportunities. And some of the goals and objectives, I guess we wanted to create a dual glaze system with an STC rating in the high 40s. Another one was to create a system that was compatible with the VersaGlide system. That's the interiors glass sliding system, I guess you could say. And then the other one's the joint venture with the interiors and the glass side. We did this together and it worked out really well. Current state map.
So we would decline jobs with dual glaze systems due to the lack of resources and experience with vendor relationships, like John said before.
All right, future state. So when we approached this, we kind of thought that we would approach it from a blank slate and that we would just cut a bunch of new dies. So when we started to do this, we had to come up with estimates for how much money, how many parts, we needed to get management approval. And in the middle of doing all of that, we had jobs that were going on where we were doing the glass and somebody else was doing the framing. So in the seeking the truth kind of phase, we found out that there was a system off the shelf by a company called Rayco. And they had a Rayco Solutions 2 478 dual glaze system. So we started looking at it and we said, hey, this is extremely similar to what we were hoping to do. So without us needing to have excess inventory and dealing with how many, what kind of quantity should we keep on hand? How do we prevent the anodize from from going bad on the shelf. We said, hey, let's work with Rayco to see if it's possible. Like, is it cost effective? What kind of inventory do they manage? And so we went down that road and we said, look, if the glass company interiors can both perform the work, we could split the cost to do STC tests, and we can do some standard procedures, standard details, standard RFQs and details, and we could both benefit from this. And then neither one of us would have to cut dies or manage an inventory system. Next slide.
There you go.
So this is our Swiss we came up with in deciding that we were going to go specifically to Rayco and not cut new dies. Step number one, identify what STC rating we're trying to achieve. That's either coming from the drawings or the GC themselves or the spec book. Number two is perform a takeoff from the architectural drawings, which you're going to find a linear footage of all the framing you need. The next step is going to be to fill out an RFQ, which we'll go through next. And then you'll submit that to Rayco, in which they'd give you a quote back. And then you'd plug that into your green sheet, and then we would submit pricing to the customer. Next slide. So we actually do have an RFQ that's attached to that Swiss, but John has also created pricing that he's gotten from Rayco for every piece of the framing that's involved for this particular system. This slide and the next gives you linear footage pricing. So as you're preparing a budget, you can either use this, or if you want to go through more detail, you could actually submit the RFI for exact pricing. But this is a good starting point to getting a rough idea of what the cost is going to be just for the framing.
So just to kind of go back so that you guys understand. So there's like the third item in this slide, the sill head jamb. There's a cavity in there. We can throat the wall for interiors, so carpenters can use that to throat it. Or there can be a pocket filler there, which is, I think if you go 1, 2, 3, 4 down, there's a brake metal starter channel. So if you put the starter channel and then you come in with the sill head jamb, it creates a condition. So go to the next slide. I just want to show you guys what these parts are.
Good to point out though too, that every testing we did was with the wall starter filled with mineral wool and the mass loaded vinyl. We didn't do testing where it throats the drywall. So to meet the STC ratings that we've gotten, the wall starter is the application that we're going to be using.
Yeah, so we put a metal track down, and then the head channel, basically kind of referred to as a comp channel, it mates with it, and we stuff the cavities of the mullions with this rock wool mineral wool, and that really gets you that STC deadening value, so that as somebody's talking on their phone and the sound hits that wall, when you stuff those cavities, this helps tremendously, the first item. And then the copolymer strips is how we're able to do a glass to glass butt joint. And we can talk a little bit about what happens when you get to a dual glazed wall. And then the mass load vinyl is just an additional layer of insulation that we stuff into the cavities. And acoustical caulking, again, it's just caulking that is a little denser that helps deaden sound. So we have those part numbers in here and in the price per unit.
And we'll you guys get a better picture of that later on down the road here.
Yeah.
We have some drawings. And ordering, Roberto.
So we come up with the Swiss if you need to order this type of materials, and so once the submittals have been approved, you review your takeoff, and the RFQ is important, so you know all the parts that you're ordering, and obviously your pre-construction group will not be dealing with ordering this particular system, but this Swiss is in the system in our portal, so that any project manager or purchasing can just come here and make sure that once we received our approved shop drawings, we compare with the RFQ, the quote that we had from the time that we estimated the job. we would have to either ask for a new quote or make sure that our pricing is still good. Review the RFQ and then make sure that our warranties and specs are up to date with what was approved. Issue a PO to Rayco. And let me just say that we haven't ordered these materials other than for the mock-up yet, but it is important to follow these steps, since the last company that we worked with at the LinkedIn project, they ordered directly from Rayco, and we were doing just the glass into the system. It is exactly the same system. They ran into a lot of trouble for not following and not knowing what parts to order. So whoever needs to order these materials got to follow. If they follow these Swiss, they will be in a better position here to order the right stuff.
That's an operations problem. Nobody here cares.
I know.
I'm kidding.
So we took our system down to Santa Clarita and tested at Western Electro Acoustical, and their testing chamber is in an old building in an old Army base, and it tests up to 100 decibels. And our main goal was to better understand STC with different types of glass and with the airspace and dual glaze, so we could get results and diagrams for future opportunities. And then here's two tables just kind of explaining how the STC values works on the left, and kind of 50 through 60 is excellent, 40 through 50 is pretty high, and our highest was 50, so you can't really hear loud speech through the system. 35 to 40 is kind of the range of our VersaGlide, where it's good, but it's a operable system, so it's not that great. And then an average wood door, a particle board, I want to say is like 28 to 30. So that's the general range. And then on the right is just examples of what the decibels sound like. And one thing I learned is, so the STC value is, if you have 50, then you would subtract 50 from 130 and you would get down to 80. So that's kind of how it works. So it's just it cancels the value out based on your value.
Where does my voice fit in the scale on the right here?
I would say you're probably like a 42.
Definitely.
I think it's by the jet aircraft.
Yeah, 130 decibels.
You guys can hear me from Texas, so.
And so I don't fully understand how to read this graph, but I know the value is where the standard contour line, which is the red one, meets with our performance line, the black line. And then I was reading, and there's some other factors that could cause, like when the difference between the two is a value of 8 or more, but ours seemed to be where it crossed. So this was the example of our 47 result.
Yeah, and that was what was it one? Because our best one was 9/16 over 9.
Yes, so it's on the next page.
Oh, okay.
So.
Yeah.
So this is the standard details. It has the swing doors in it as well, but as far as our testing, we only use 3 and 6. And so you could tell it has the mass-load vinyl strips as number 3. So the left, and if you're looking at number 3, the detail 3, the left and the right of that wall start is the strips, and then inside number 2 is the rock wool. Number 1 would only be for the door frame, so we didn't have to deal with the seals. And then below is our results. So the 47 was 9/16 lamy and 1/2 inch. And then surprisingly, 3/8 with 9/16 performed better. And so the difference in thicknesses block different frequency waves. And so it just so happened that that one worked better. And then we did 9/16 and 7/16, and then 9/16 and 9/16, and that was the best at 50. And then when we added the copolymer butt joints, it only dropped 1 value. So we just did 1 test, basically to test the butt joint, and left it at that.
Nice.
Oh, this is Rayco's installation instructions. I mean, it's pretty simple. A lot of the parts do match with interiors. So the good thing about it is we're already very, you know, we've seen it before, so pretty easy to do. Some of the parts are interchangeable. And here's the actual installation right there. You see where we're putting the caulking and the mineral wool inside that wall start. We don't have a picture of the actual where the butt joint is, but
I wonder if here, I wonder if Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there it is. So that would be the copolymer strip right there. That's where it meets up both pieces of glass.
Yeah, okay. That's all there's to it. Not the easiest installation though, was it, Romero?
It was heavy.
No, it took time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't one of those that you're just gonna knock
What I-
out.
what What I meant was we're familiar with the actual system
Yeah,
itself compared
right.
to some of the other systems that we've done. I mean, this is better than the other ones.
And what
Right.
Roberto said earlier too, is we have yet to do a full install. We've done our glass into a third party's frames. The only time we've actually fully installed this whole system was down in Santa Clarita in these photos. So we're still waiting for a full, we do the frames, we do the glass project, which we expect shortly, because LinkedIn standards seem to be now everything dual glazed. And I believe we have 2 or 3 buildings out for bid with LinkedIn that have all dual glazed systems. So we're waiting for our first one to be sold to actually get this installed.
The good thing is though, is we learned from some of the other, what was it, B&E or something like that was out there installing them, I think it was, or another carpenter group was installing the frames, and we got a chance to kind of learn from their mistakes though, what they were kind of doing wrong and on a few caulking details and whatnot. So that was nice.
BV doors.
BV doors. Okay, yeah, it was great because Roberto was out there doing the PMing, and he's the one who found this system for us because they were installing it out there and it worked out really well.
Hey, Johnny, I wanted to mention that one of the great things about these Kaizen is the fact that after we looked at this system, we were already using it in the LinkedIn project. Right now, as far as we know, we're the only company that can offer a dual glaze system, STC rated and certified. This particular company that did the BV doors, who did this LinkedIn project, they priced this because we declined. We didn't have a system to price at that time, so they grabbed it on because they were doing the interior doors, and they had no idea what they were getting into. So they made a lot of mistakes, and plus they could not offer any certification on the STC rating. So from here on, whenever our pre-construction team is pricing something there, if you see any specifications of STC rated certified system, that's what we're going to be able to offer with, after this Kaizen.
Yep. Great point. Sweet. I think
All
we're off
right,
that.
so open items. We want to come up with also STC glass doors as well. Come up with our dice, obviously sell the product, and improve the butt joint conditions.
The Tasmania doors
Yeah.
thing. Q&A. Anybody got any questions? That's how good our report out was.
Got it back when I was taking off.
All right.
Where do we find the information for the rep or the vendor? In case we want to request a quote.
Yeah, actually, I have that, I think, in this somewhere. The RFQ, I think, didn't I?
That should be in the RFQ.
Your Rayco contact, I believe, is in the RFQ.
Can somebody just email the business contact for the Rayco rep?
Sure, I can.
Yeah, and then we can all save it.
Yeah. You want me to email the whole estimating team? Is that what?
Just email the Outlook contact. Here, I might have it.
It's
Hey, Johnny, I think we should put something together, including the information on the certification and testing, because if anybody calls Rayco asking for these testings and numbers that we certify already, they're not gonna know anything because they themselves have not tested the system. So maybe we can put a little packet of information.
And we didn't call it Rayco on the results. It just was an aluminum dual
Yeah,
glazed system.
yeah.
'Cause we use VersaGlide, the trim and the vinyl and stuff. So it's not a full Rayco system.
All right, we did that on purpose, didn't we?
Yeah. So
Yeah, we spent a lot of time and money doing these tests, and if we give these to Rayco, now they have these tests for free that we went down and spent labor and time. So
yeah. So it's
That's
not a
why I'm
full
thinking
Rayco
we
system.
should come up with our own cell sheet maybe
Yeah.
for our pre-construction group with the information that they can have, where to get quotes for materials, and then our certification goes with that.
So,
And-
okay. So at least the miscellaneous items, I do have links in the RFQ. I think we might have a link in the I'm checking right now in the other. If not, I'll
Yeah, we
I'll-
can
I'll
follow
put it-
up.
I'll put it in the Swiss or something, so we have to make sure that.
And then just regarding the contact info, you can just email it to me. I asked because when I went to the purchasing vendor info, I didn't see that there was Rayco listed, so I can add it.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, yeah. I guess I didn't know. You're right. Okay. I will do that.
Yeah, I don't think the Rayco. You're saying, Gabriel, you can't see it in our list of vendors?
There on the purchasing tab, there's a vendor vendor info, and I searched by R, but it wasn't anything.
It's probably because that is, up until now, it's exclusively a Walters and Wolf Interiors vendor.
Oh, okay.
Right now.
Interiors they're the ones that usually buy products from them because for interior framing and doors.
All right, any other questions, guys? Thank you for your time.
Yeah, hopefully we use it.
Until we get those LinkedIn jobs.
Yeah, that'd make it worthwhile right there.
Yeah, pay for everything.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.